Hello and welcome. This is Nancy, and I am so happy to welcome you to another edition of Seeking Truth Always. It is Tuesday, the 25th of August, in the year of our Lord, 2026. And what a few days it's been since we've been together last. It is, well, there's never a day goes by now that there isn't just more to talk about than there was the day before. And today is no exception. Anyway, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you are seeking truth. And I'm just glad we're doing it together. Isn't God amazing? How He brings people together in His timing, for His purposes, for such a time as this. And that is exactly why we're here together. Because He called me to do this, and He called you. At some point, He put my face in front of you, or a link, or whatever. And you clicked on it. And here we are. Another day. I've been doing this for over 5 years now. It has been quite the journey. What I call our own personal awakening journeys. And I illustrate it using my hands in almost every podcast. And I speak about a journey having a beginning and an end. And for me, my awakening journey, the beginning of my journey began, well, about 8 years ago. The Lord put a scripture in my heart, Luke 8:17. And that, I had to look it up. I had no idea what it was. And it said, everything that's been kept secret, hidden, and in the dark will be revealed and will come to light. And I was confused, to say the least. It's like, what's been kept secret, Lord? What's been hidden? What's been kept in the dark? And the last 8 years has been God answering that question for me. And for all of us, because all of our journeys began, if you're here, you're on one. You're on a journey. You're awakening. You've been awake longer than me. You woke up sooner than I did, or you woke up a day ago. It doesn't really matter. We are all on this journey together. If you're here, we're together. So I started learning things. God started showing me things. A lot of things I didn't want to know. A lot of things I didn't want to believe them. And then over time, more and more came to light. What did the scriptures say? Everything has been kept in the dark will be revealed and will come to light. Dark, normally we think of light as truth, and light as God is light, God is truth. So dark would be the opposite. Dark would be evil. Dark would be lies and deception and deceit. And so over the period of the first couple years, there were things coming to light. Things that, there's an old movie that Clint Eastwood was in called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And everything I was learning was pretty bad and ugly. But God is good. He's the good, in spite of all the bad and the ugly. And God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. You've probably heard that before. And what the enemy means for evil, God will use for good. And He does. But on that journey, there's a lot of pain and a lot of heartache, because we're learning things that that we've been deceived about, and we keep learning them. I'm going to be sharing something with you tonight that some of you may find hard to believe. I guess lots of things I share with you guys over the last 5 years together, you would probably at some point have found some of them hard to believe, just as I did. But tonight's no exception. And we're going to be talking about Dolly Parton. Many of you probably already know, and some of you may not yet, but she passed away today at the age of 80, we're told. And I loved Dolly Parton. I loved her music all my life. I'm 70, so she's been around all my life. Not that I knew who she was when I was 10 years old or anything, but whenever her music started being played, I loved her voice. I loved her in any movies she was in. And you're going to have to, you don't have to do anything, but you may be brought to a point during this podcast where you're going to need to maybe seek the Lord and seek discernment and seek truth from Him. Because that's what I had to do when I first started learning years ago in my journey, which is about 8 years, give or take. That was one of the hard pills for me to swallow. That was a rough one. I have to say allegedly, the things I'm going to share with you tonight that are allegedly true. It took a long time for me to resolve and accept. And there have been a lot of people that we've known of or liked or loved as entertainers or singers or sports. I'm not a big sports person, but some people like, these people that are in certain different sports and things like that. And we've learned some really horrendous things about some people we have had the highest regard for our whole lives. I guess you could say we somewhat idolized them, huh? Not in a bad way. We weren't trying to be bad, and we never put them above, I can only speak for myself. They would never be above God or anything like that. But when we say, oh, I love that person like I did, saying I loved her in the movies, I loved her voice, I loved her songs, and so forth. And I'm going to share some things with you tonight, and your job, your first job is decide if you want to hear them. And hopefully you'll listen. Even if you don't believe it yet. And I'm not telling you to believe it. But pray about it. Pray about it. And ask God for understanding. Ask God for discernment. But I will say that I believe that, as I put in the notification I sent out, the public, the soft public reveal about Dolly Parton was today. The soft public reveal. What a weird way to put it, right? If you don't understand things the way I understand them. Because my understanding is, like so many others, they were dealt with a long time ago. The evil was so profound, so disturbing, so proven, even if not to us yet, that they were dealt with long ago. And it's my understanding it was around 2022 for her. Now, that could be wrong. and that could be not true, and that could be not the correct date, and I may be 100% wrong in everything I'm saying to you right now. But I'm telling you what I believe. And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. And there will be, if this was a soft public disclosure or a soft public reveal, the words I chose to use, then there will be a time when there is a hard public reveal or a solid public reveal about a lot of people that we thought maybe we're in the same situation as what I'll be speaking about with her tonight. All right, so yeah, we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to share a lot of information with you. And then you decide. And you don't have to decide tonight. And you never have to decide. But it would be my recommendation, if you're confused, to pray about it. Because God is not a God of confusion. And, well, Satan is the father of confusion. If you want to call him a father, I don't really call him a father. The demon of confusion. I think that's better. We're also going to be talking tonight, well, I'm actually, after I welcome a couple of people in just a few moments that got early to join us, or, early in the podcast, I'm going to share an old writing with you guys by someone by the name of Paul Harvey. Now, if you're my age, not too much younger or even older, then you know who Paul Harvey is. And if you don't, it'll still be interesting to listen to. But those that do know who he is may have heard it before, or would agree that that was, what I'm going to read to you is definitely something that he would write. He was an amazing writer. He was on a radio show. When he was first around, there weren't like TV talk shows or whatever. Maybe there were, but he wasn't on one. He was on the radio. And he just talked about stuff, kind of like, I guess I'm doing right now. But in this day and age, we call it podcasts. And back in those days, it was just a radio show. And this writing I'm going to read to you is called If I Were the Devil. And you might say, well, that's kind of an ugly thing to write about. Yeah, but wait till you hear it. Because what you're going to hear is a man who, I believe it was 1968, wrote this. 1968. I was 12 years old when he wrote this. And I don't know when I heard it for the first time, but I certainly heard it throughout my lifetime, and maybe as a young person, a young adult, and then an older adult. And my opinion of it was, ooh, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. That could never happen. That could never happen. The things he writes about that I'm going to read you, that could never happen. That was my opinion. That could never happen. Never. Well, if it did, it wouldn't happen here in the United States at the very least. Never happen here. And what I read to you, that was written in 1968, we have lived it. We have lived it. How did he know? How did Paul Harvey know? How was he given that kind of, I'm not, he's not a prophet or anything. I mean, God maybe gave him a gift, I don't know, to have been able to understand where things were headed. But at any rate, I'm going to read that to you as we get started. If I Were the Devil by Paul Harvey. And you'll be amazed, as I've been, like I said, every time I ever read it or heard it, it was like, that could never happen. That could never happen. And here we are. What else have I got tonight? As we approach the midterms, we've heard about the storm coming. We've heard President Trump's answer, what storm, Mr. President? You'll find out. And it's kind of like what he's talking about, and the storm can be many things. I think so much of what the storm is the disclosure, the truth coming out. The truth, I mean, the very person that asked that was a reporter. What storm, Mr. President? You'll find out. Is he talking directly to the media then? I think a big part of the storm is the exposure of the media being corrupt. I mean, at that time when he said, you'll find out, he was saying fake news all the time still. I mean, at the beginning, that was like in 2017, I think, that he said that. In that very famous exchange. But there is, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, but I think there's a storm of sorts coming, but before the midterms, but a very severe storm. Now, I don't know what that exactly means. I don't have that answer. I'm just giving you my feeling, I'm not a, you guys know, you follow me, you that follow me know, I'm not a doom and gloomer. Whatever's coming, God's got. I mean, whatever it is. I don't worry about it. I mean, I trust God, period. That doesn't mean that bad things don't happen to good people. They do. But this storm, I just don't believe that maybe that's the wrong word, believe. I find it hard to not question, that's good, whether there will actually be midterms or not. And I know we've had multiple elections where that's been questioned. I mean, I've been with you guys for 5 years, over 5 years already. And on my own journey for 8 years. And there have been like, I wonder if this election coming up will go through or not. We've said that about multiple different elections over the last multiple years. And they all went through. But why? Why did they go through? If we knew that, if there, and I'm going on the basis there is election fraud. That's my opinion. I can state that. You may not agree with me, but I agree. I mean, I agree that you can disagree. But on the premise that why would elections go through if there's election fraud? Why don't we just like, have a redo, whatever. But yet they went through. Well, in 2017, in my opinion, the election in 2016, that was divine intervention. I mean, people had something to do with it. The alliance, the good guys, the military, they all had something to do with it, of course. But it was God's divine intervention that against all odds, President Trump would win. Because, I mean, Hillary said, I was supposed to win. Not, I thought I'd win. No, I was supposed to win. I mean, that is an admission in and of itself of fraud. Like, I already knew it's like if you bet on, well, I think a lot of major sports are fixed as well. Again, you can disagree with that, and that's fine. But let's just say for a second it's true that some of them are fixed to turn out the way they turn out. Like a big game where lots of people bet millions or billions of dollars. And if you knew it was fixed, I mean, would you bet everything you had? You probably wouldn't if you knew it was fixed. Or if you knew it was fixed, but you knew who it was fixed for, you might bet everything plus everything. Well, that's like that 2016 election. She was so certain she would win because it was fixed. Okay, so President Trump won and there was divine intervention. Then one might say, well, why wasn't there divine intervention for the 2020 then? It's a fair question. But if you trust God, you know that there was, for his purposes. In hindsight, it's real easy to look back and say, why? Because some people can't be told, they have to be shown. And President Trump could speak to his blue in the face, and I could speak to him blue in the face, and you could speak to your blue in the face, which means you're just like talking, never taking a breath, and you turn blue. If you ever wondered what that saying meant. But people had to see. There's some people that no matter what he said or I said or you said or others say, they would never have believed that so many millions and 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 millions of illegal people would come into our country. And then we would be in the position where there was, everything we've witnessed over the last multiple years. People had to see it. People had to see it. They had to see what would happen when Trump went out and then they came in, and then all of the persecution against him, all of the lawsuits, all of the court cases, 2 impeachments in his first term, Russia. People had to see it all. There's a reason for everything. And so back to this storm before the midterms, this severe storm. I think something's going to be, something or some things, there's going to be some things happening. And I think it has to do, this is just, again, my personal opinion. I think it will have to do with needing a national emergency. And if you have a national emergency, then under certain circumstances, I would assume, and I'm not an authority, and I'm by no means an expert, and I have no intel sources, like everyone out there says they have. But I believe that in order to stop the elections, there may need to be a national emergency, but the national emergency wouldn't be because of the stopped elections. It would be because of something else. And what that something else is, I don't know. But I have something to share with you from David Sorensen about that tonight. And I also have something to share with you after that. And he's not an alarmist. He's not an alarmist at all. And he has such a strong, deep faith. And has never been a doom and gloomer ever. And he's not now either. But for him to put something out with his opinion about that, for me, that's huge, because I trust him. I trust his discernment. So I'm going to share what he has to say, but also how he follows it up with, no matter what, just like I say to you all the time, God has this. No matter what it is, God has this, and a new day is coming. A new dawn is coming. And speaking of that, I have shared with you guys in the past a few times, and only those that follow me regularly and would see every podcast may have even, would have caught it, but I'm going to be going into more detail tonight about what is considered. I've said before that there's this new, I believe there's this new worldwide system. It's all about peace, fairness. President Trump called it a level playing field for everyone. He said that multiple times in different speeches he's made and comments he's made. But it's never been about just this country. It's been about worldwide. And years and years and years ago, someone I share, I'm not sharing one of his things tonight, but Bear from News 17 channel, when he didn't have podcasts or he didn't do videos, it was when he just put out writings. I remember reading from him so many years ago, I mean early in my journey, about the world will be broken down into like sections, and all of them under peace, and each one with a leader. And some call it the 7 kingdoms of God. And I recently came across some really good explanation of that in what I do every day, day in and day out. And I'm going to share that with you tonight. What this world may look like if we do evolve into these 7 kingdoms of God, as some call it. All right, so that's another thing. What else? Oh, we're going to do part 14 of 28. We're at 14. We're at the halfway point of the sequel to the Fall of the Cabal. And tonight's going to be quite extremely fascinating, especially if you don't know a lot about the agenda of the global elites for all of our lifetime and hundreds of years prior to that. A reduce the population plan. I can't say the D before the word population because that's kind of like an algorithm that sometimes gets flagged. So yeah, we're finally off of Bill Gates. Not that I didn't want to hear everything she had to say about Bill Gates, and I've heard it before because I've watched him before. It's very vital to know everything that he's done, and he's another one that's already been dealt with. But there hasn't been a public, a soft public reveal yet on him. But there will be, in my opinion. All right, so we're going to be talking about that reduce the population deal, where she's going to be talking about wars. She's going to be talking about natural disasters. She's going to be talking about famines and droughts and plagues and diseases and a lot of the New World Order's agenda. That because God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, well, they failed. And we're watching those failings as we continue on our own journeys. And well, we're going to hear the history from Janet Ossebaard in the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal, part 14, about that very evil, diabolical agenda. Okay, I think that's where we're going. And I'm going to say hello to a few folks. And I see my husband was first in the house. He said, hello, everyone. So hello, Daniel. He's out and about delivering Grubhub. And if you're in the area and you order food from Grubhub, you just might meet him. So welcome, Daniel. Glad you can listen in between deliveries. And Nikki is with us, and she says, good evening, Nancy. Nice to be tuning into your broadcast tonight. Happy Tuesday. And the same to you, Nikki. Welcome from South Carolina, and happy Tuesday to you as well. And Sonia joined us and said, good evening, Nancy and everyone. And Sonia comes to us from Ohio. I'm pretty sure I have that right. Ohio. And good to see you, Sonia, as always. Thank you for joining us. And Lori is with us, and she says, I'm here for a few minutes, but I am already in bed. Yeah, she's an early riser, already in bed and work tomorrow. Nurses get up early. Yeah, and people that aren't nurses stay up all night. I have a third shift circadian rhythm. Always have, even as a kid. hated going to bed at night, couldn't go to sleep, got in trouble all the time by my mother, who was quite a strict mother. And there weren't cell phones back then, so your light was either on or off. And if she saw a flashlight under the covers, I was in a lot of trouble. So yeah, I'm third shift circadian rhythm. If you don't know what that means, look up circadian rhythm. But that's how the world can operate. You know, there's some businesses that are open 24 hours, you know. There has to be people that can stay awake. So yeah, I looked into it once, like seeing like different sleep studies and things on circadian rhythms, and I found out that 17% of the population are third shift circadian rhythm. And how they figured that out is they had sleep studies where people would come in for a designated amount of time, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 6 months, whatever it is. But they were in a study where there were no windows, no clocks, and they would come in, you know, just whatever day and time they came in, but with no clocks, nobody saying what time it is, so you're not eating when, oh, it's noon, I gotta eat, you know, or whatever. They would eat when they were hungry, they would sleep when they were tired, and whatever else they did, read, you know, keep themselves busy, whatever, but there was no way they knew what time it was. And then it was, you know, different studies were different time limits, timelines, you know, like how long the studies were. But after a certain amount of days, your body will, if not forced to be on any certain schedule that the world wants us to be on, you know, the bodies would all revert to whatever was natural for them, for their bodies, for their own circadian rhythms. So after these studies were done, it was pretty much across the board, about 17%. I am in the minority. 17% is a circadian rhythm, third shift or overnight circadian rhythm. And those studies made me feel better, because I got so tired my whole life, no pun intended, of people telling me, you know, just get over it. Because I did. I worked regular jobs. I worked regular day hours. I had children, you know, I had to go to school and get up. And I was a night person forced into a day world pretty much all my life. And you adapt. You have to. But if you let your body get back into its own rhythm, and at my age, I have allowed my body to go to the rhythm it wants to go to. That it feels best. Like, I've always been most creative at night. Like, I used to write a lot of poetry, short stories, songs, lyrics. I did a lot of that. It was always anytime after 10, 11, midnight that I was most creative. In my business, any businesses, I designed a lot of different things in my businesses, whether it be, you know, designing business materials or designing graphics or whatever the case may be. But I was always the most creative at night, overnight, always. If I tried to write a poem at 10 in the morning, like no ideas would come to my head, as an example. If I was trying to write that same poem at 2 in the morning, it's like, they're all right there. All the ideas, like, all right, well, that's a little more about me that you might not have known before. So there you go. All because Lori said, nurses get up early. Anyway, glad you're here, Lori. And thank you for sharing. All right, Ramona is joining us, and she's here from South Bend, Indiana. She says, hello, Nancy and everyone. Welcome, Ramona, and thank you for your comment and joining us this evening. Always good to see you. And Brenda is joining us. She says, hello from Madison. Does that say Madison? I don't remember you ever saying Madison before. I have to put my glasses on for that. It is Madison, South Dakota. I was expecting Wisconsin. When I saw it said Madison, I'm like, oh, is she in Wisconsin tonight? Well, hello, Brenda from Madison, South Dakota. I had no idea. See, there's Chris. Hello to all from South Dakota. So, Chris, do you know where Madison, South Dakota is? Because that's where Brenda is. Yeah, I never knew there was a Madison, South Dakota. She says, hope everyone is doing well. Brenda, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad you're here from Madison, South Dakota. And Chris might be in Platte, or I forget the other place you're there. Well, you know, you work in one place and you live in another place. So, yeah, put in there where you're from, Chris, and then Brenda might know where you're from too. And we'll just connect even better. All right. All right, let's go. If I were the devil, that's where I'm starting. So as I mentioned before, if you've never heard this, it will be eye-opening for you. If you have heard it, it's even more eye-opening because you'll probably say, oh my, I forgot it even said that. But this was written, again, if I recall, I think it was 1968, but don't quote me on that, but I think it was in the 60s regardless. Paul Harvey's If I Were the Devil, and in parentheses, How to Destroy America. How to Destroy America. Chris had a comment. She says, you bet. I'm in Beersford. That's the other one. Beersford. So Brenda, Chris, do you know where each other live? All right. If I were the devil. If I were the devil, if I were the Prince of Darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population. But I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. That means us. So I set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. Subvert. Think about, like, deceive, maybe. If I were the devil is like the great deceiver. So he's going to subvert the churches first. He says, I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you, as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square, and the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting, so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies, and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could, and I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. Does any of this sound familiar to you guys yet? Like, he wrote this in the 60s. Paul Harvey, for those just joining us, wrote this. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families that war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine the young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild, until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Now think about that, guys. This was written in the 60s. They didn't have anything like that. And when I read it in the 70s or 80s, we still didn't have anything like that. Oh, you'd never have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors in a school. That was my opinion. He goes on to say, within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. And I'm just going to say that if you all knew everything that I knew about the judicial system, and many of you do, and many of you know even more, they're not only promoting pornography, okay? Soon, he goes on to say, I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse. Oh, did they take prayer in schools away? They even took the Pledge of Allegiance away. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, was taken away from our schools. He wrote this in the 60s. I could evict God from the courthouse, and then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls. Okay, I have to intercede again. Like, what have we learned over the last multiple decades about children and little boys and girls and churches and priests and clergies and high up people even higher in the church misusing boys and girls? Oh, and church money. Yeah, churches would misuse money too. Imagine that. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbols of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what do you bet? I could get entire states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. Did you see casinos cropping up everywhere? All over. Every state. They got around the laws and made them Indian casinos. This was the 60s. There were no casinos unless they were on water. I would caution against extreme and hard work in patriotism, as well as in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned. The swinging, that means multiple partners, swinging is more fun. That what you see on the TV is the way to be. And thus, I could undress you in public. And I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. Some might consider STDs something like that. And back in the day when people thought AIDS was just something that happened. But we know Fauci had other ideas for that, don't we, at this point? But still, that's exactly what happened. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey, good day. If you used to watch him, you know. And I stand corrected. It was 1965. I thought it was 68, but it's 1965 because it's on the document that I created back when I created it. So that is what Paul Harvey had to say about if I were the devil, and how much of that has come to pass. Every bit of it, really. But good things are coming, and better things, and God has a way of eradicating evil when things get too far out of hand. And I say things are mightily too far out of hand, and so that's what he's doing for such a time as this, in my humble opinion. All right, let's go to Dolly Parton. Let's go to Dolly Parton. segue to Dolly Parton. I've already said a few things about her in my intro. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a post. Now, it wouldn't be hard for me to find a lot of posts that are very, 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 very sad. And they have every reason to be, because they're not going to be aware of anything that I'm about to share with you. And I am not I cannot say to you that everything I'm going to be sharing with you is indeed the truth or the facts. But it is what I have come to believe after multiple years of information, some of which I'm going to be sharing with you tonight in this segment. It's what I believe is true. Sadly, if you saw my intro, you know that I said that I loved her music. I loved her songs. I loved when she was in movies. It crushed me when I started to learn differently about her. It crushed me. And I pretty much was, I guess the best word to say is I was in denial about it and just sort of stuffed it away and didn't want to see anything or hear anything about it. But as the Lord will always do for me, is He will gently take me to the truth when He knows I'm ready. And sometimes I might be kicking and screaming just a little bit and dragging my heels, but I trust God. And so I learned things, and I learned more, and then I learned more. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is a post from somebody who is on the same page as I am. But you could go and find 1,000 more that would look at what I'm going to be showing you tonight. Some people might not even like what I'm sharing, and they just might turn off this podcast and never come back. Because they'd say, no, Dolly Parton wasn't like that. And that's fair enough. I mean, you are where you are and you believe what you believe. Well, I am where I am and I believe what I believe, and I would love to be proven wrong. I will finish it up by saying that. I would love to be proven wrong. All right. So I'm going to show you this post, and then what I'm going to do is share with you the comments, because the comments will teach you more than the post. Okay. So this is just a lovely post. But what the woman says, her name is Monica Sue, and she has an account on Facebook here in this platform. And you can follow her at her page. She said on this post where she's showing a rest in peace Dolly Parton image, she says they'll be dropping like flies in the public eye now. Then she says, good riddance to these satanic reptilians for their crimes against children. And she completes it by saying, may you not rest in peace, but burn in hell. It's a pretty sharp thing to say, but I understand why she's saying it. And that is why I'm doing this segment. When she says they'll be dropping like flies, she's talking about more famous people that we know will be dropping like flies. We're seeing it happen already. Some of them, we don't even know where the fly is. Like is it Mitch McConnell? Which one is? Mitch McConnell. I always say not always, but sometimes I say the one that's supposedly in the hospital, but we haven't seen him for 6 months. The head of the Republican Party and Mitch McConnell. And what's the other one? Who was Nancy Pelosi's buddy? The other one. Anyway, you guys put it in the comments. These two, the names, the one that disappeared, and then, okay, they'll be dropping like flies. So famous people, she called them satanic reptilians. Let's look at some of the comments. And I see Diane is joining us. Welcome, Diane, from South Bend here in Indiana. She says, hello, friend. And I say hello back at you. Thank you for joining us, Diane. Okay, this person says, I'm reading all these testimonials for her, and I think if they only knew what she was, people are going to have meltdowns when the truth comes out. You open up the next one. Somebody says, what did she do? Some people have no idea. So someone else says, same, what did she do? Someone else says, yes, like my husband. Someone else says, or they'll deny it and ask for your source, as if they were the only one. And someone else says, you mean he was? You mean he was? Aren't we talking about Dolly Parton? You mean he was? The next person says, it has only been hours and I'm already annoyed with her praises being lifted by those without knowledge. The next one says, what I find hard is no human just wants to be like this. They get trapped and blackmailed in deeply ingrained tentacles. It's all coming out now. So the young ones we feel compassion towards, like Britney and Justin Bieber, for example, theirs become apparent in a time frame we can actually hear and see what's been up. But the older ones, the same thing happened, blackmailed into quietness for fear of so much. It's all just plain evil. I have no compassion toward any darkness whatsoever, but it's something to think of. The sad part is when the demons take over the human body. 3 replies to this post. Remember, though, Dolly is a Rothschild. Evil to the core. Reptilians. This person said, agree. Even still, these innocent babies abused from even within the womb, taking God's creation and ransacking in every imaginable way. There is never any hope to those. It was never supposed to be this way. God's actual people should have taken dominion long ago. We're seeing the byproduct of the complacency taught in the church. You guys have heard me talk a lot about that. And spiritually aware people doing nothing. I just on my last podcast talked about that. Again, one of the things that make me the most angry, I guess. Okay, here's another one. He knew what he was doing from day one. I thought we were talking about Dolly Parton. She/he was the ditty of the country music along with Garth. There's another red pill for you guys. She was a high witch. Another comment. Crazy how she can play the part of loving and sing about such and be complete opposite. So sad. I just watched something interesting on Hayden Panettiere, and supposedly she wrote much more than what's in her book, and a ghostwriter removed much. She was set to expose. If you don't know who Hayden Panettiere, I think that's how you pronounce it, an actress who recently was found dead, and she was set to expose more of the evil in Hollywood. Okay, here's another one. Not to discard the fact that she was actually born a male. What? That might be a surprise to some of you. Yep, transgender pedophile. What's the next? Someone else says, drip, drip, flood. So many people not awake. It's time. I do believe the floodgates are about to open. I have been a fan of Dolly Parton since I can remember. My dad played guitar and my mom sang at home, and all country music. I fell in love with her song, Coat of Many Colors, because my mom had a similar upbringing as her story. I bought my kids her children's book years ago. If I can come to terms with it, I hope more people can. Someone else says, we were all deceived by these monsters. At least you are awake now. I'm waking up more every day. So someone says, so did Kenny Rogers try and hit that? Asking for a friend. Oh, Patrick, you're going to make me sick. I'm not even going to go into what he's talking about there. You can read between the lines. I read she was a man too. I bet there'd be a lot of upset men if they knew what they were oogling over. If people really knew how bad a person it was. Now we have to listen to how much she has done for everyone, how good of a person, a country legend, all BS. Who will be next? Anyone want to guess? Maybe Oprah. Maybe Elton John. Never a fan of hers. Okay. We could go on and on. But you've got the point. Someone posted this to have with all of them. It's all of them. And this is something that was suggested, that it was December 13th of 2022 that she was held accountable for her crimes against humanity. Now, I can't prove that, and neither can this person, maybe, but it's not the first time I've heard it. And this is a picture of her using the devil horns. That's satanic symbolism. There's all kinds of these out there with satanic symbolism. Okay, so I've got some more for you. This is from an account in Telegram that's called Deep Dives. If you're not connected to Deep Dives, I would it's called Deep Dives for a reason. So today, this was just posted today, it begins with this announcement that Dolly Parton has died at age 80. And then this is written, public death announcement. Anyways. Then President Trump wrote, very sad to report that Dolly Parton, one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever, has just passed away. This is a true loss for millions of people. There's never been anyone like her and never will. In her honor, I am lowering the American flag. And I want you to remember how he worded that. Lowering the American flag throughout the United States for a 1-week period beginning tonight at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Remember that time as well. Rest in peace, Dolly. The world loves you. President Donald J. Trump. And this says President Trump will lower the flags throughout the United States for 1 week starting at 6 p.m. So why is that important? You see this? 6 o'clock can be dangerous. That's from a Q post. You might think, well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, the fact that he chose 6 p.m. to begin. But there's more, and we'll get to it in just a moment. But Dollywood, you see the butterfly here for the W, Dollywood. The butterfly is MK Ultra. It's one of the symbols that they use in their programming. And this says Dollywood, think trafficking, think programming. The monarch butterfly signifies MK Ultra monarch programming. It's a CIA program. I've talked about it. We had a segment not too long ago, very detailed on it, from Kathy O'Brien. I showed one of her interviews. So I'm just going to read what this woman is saying. And she's saying Dolly Parton is another one. But someone mentioned Garth Brooks earlier. Garth Brooks is ditty and country music. And Dolly is I think that's would be the same, I think they're saying same, regarding missing children at Dollywood and under her amusement park, is organ harvesting, King of Western Caroline, where a lot of Western Carolina and North Georgia children went missing. They were took there with the help of CPS and FBI, CIA sheriff's departments. I don't know if she's cussing or not. That's why I didn't want to. She looks really mad. I don't want to play it just in case she's throwing a lot of bad words around. But there's a lot of typos in this. But you get the point of Dollywood, what goes on under the amusement park, the trafficking, the organ harvesting, and so forth. This one, from Jolene to the vaccine, Dolly Parton gets COVID-19 shot she helped to fund. She was very much in favor of funding the COVID shot. You never know if they actually got it or not. My assumption would be not. But remember when she changed the lyrics of Jolene for people to take the shot? Now, I don't remember that because I didn't watch a lot of that stuff, but clearly she did. She changed the lyrics of Jolene for people to take the jab. So this is when Dolly was just a youngster, and you can decide for yourself if that's, it looks like a boy's shirt to me. I didn't know Dolly when she was growing up, so I couldn't say. But with Satanism, everything is inverted, and that's why they wanted to transgender all of our kids and make the boys girls, the girls boys. Dolly Parton teams up with Walmart to contribute millions of dollars for Hurricane Helene relief. She announced a donation of $1 million to help with the recovery and efforts. Well, that sounds like a good thing. The Dollywood Foundation will also contribute an additional $1 million, and Walmart Foundation will continue another $6 million. Well, connect the dots. Walmart was bigly involved with child trafficking, and Dolly Parton is teamed up with them. I talked to you about the butterfly, and the butterfly is in her logo, Dollywood, for the park. She also will in just showing the butterfly. It is, I mean, I grew up loving butterflies. I still love seeing butterflies, but it doesn't mean any, like, it's still a trigger for people with Monarch, CIA Monarch, MK Ultra Monarch programming. This is a trigger, and she knows darn well it is. She knows. It's Monarch programming. There's another symbol with her and a big old butterfly. That's probably an album cover. Huge symbolic programming meaning. Here's another one. She not only knew, she promoted it. They always have to tell you. That's one thing they have to tell us in their they have to show the imaging, they have to show the symbolism. Now let's talk again about President Trump's post. Did anyone notice that President Trump didn't say lowering the flag at half staff for Dolly? He just said lowering. Half staff is important. I'll tell you why in a moment. Half staff is important. By not doing it at half staff, it's showing no honor. The half staff order, sometimes colloquially but incorrectly referred to as half-mast, a term technically reserved for flags aboard naval vessels. It carries deep symbolic weight in American civic life. Under the U.S. Flag Code, codified in Title IV of the United States Code, the President may issue a proclamation ordering the national flag flown at half staff upon the death of principal figures of the government, as well as on occasions of national mourning. The proclamation typically specifies the duration of the order, which can range from a single day to 30 days, the latter being reserved for the death of a sitting or former president. When a state governor issues a half-staff order, it applies to state and local government buildings, but federal installations within the state are not legally bound by it unless a corresponding presidential proclamation is issued. So, again, half-mast is a term technically reserved for flags above naval vessels. And lowering the flag to half staff, President Trump didn't say that. He said he was lowering the flag. There was no half staff or half mast. And then he also said she was the greatest country singer and far beyond ever. President Trump didn't just call Dolly great. He called her one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever. Great, greatest. He's telling us who she aligns with. Greatest of all times, goat. Dolly Parton with the goat. Again, symbolism of the goat. The goat. Symbolism is everything for these people, and they got to do it. If they don't do it, then they're not worshiping and showing their worship and their honor to who they worship, which isn't the God that we worship. Behind the veil of that sugar and honey persona was a woman who, according to this writer, sold herself to the devil. Asking for the firstborn child sacrifice. This is the real Dolly most don't know about. Let's hear what she has to say here.
You two are making a donation of $2 million to my imagination library. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm blown away and overjoyed with that gratitude. Now, it's evident that you two have made giving back a key part of your life. So, hey, when you have your firstborn, can I have it? Because that is going to be one special baby.
Look back at her hands.
Because that is going to be one of made giving back a key part of your life. So, hey,
There they are. The devil horns.
When you have your firstborn, can I have it? Because that is going to be one special baby. You know, the mission of the Dollywood Foundation, you two are making a donation of $2.
So this person connected the date. Today's the 25th of August. The Wizard of Oz premiered on August 25th, 1939. So ding dong, the witch is dead. I am curious if those heavy rhinestones she wore were her level up sacrifices. Her family mentioned them in her tribute video. Okay, so we could go on and on and on, and there's more. I could show you much more. And it is maybe you knew this before, maybe you didn't know it before. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just showing you things. And my recommendation, if this is the first you've heard it, pray about it. God will reveal the truth to you. He will. If you sincerely want the truth, I did. And when I first learned about this, I was woo. It's like, it just can't be true. But you got to do what you got to do. I believe she's been gone. I believe that for crimes against humanity, she was executed. That's my belief. I also believe that this truth will be acknowledged. It will be brought out about her and all of the others. Why do I say that? Because until people understand the severity and the depth of evil that is in this world and of this world, they will never understand why we are at the place we are and how we got here. People such as President Trump, you know the hate spewed at him. Maybe you're watching right now and you don't like him. Maybe you're watching right now and you don't like anything I'm talking about right now. But what I know and believe to be true is the reason he stands up day after day with a target on his back and gave up his entire life for this country and the betterment of humanity worldwide is he does know the depth of the evil that has permeated this world. And he wanted, not only for the American people and all of humanity, first and foremost, he has children. He has grandchildren. He may have, I don't think he has great-grandchildren. He might, but I don't think so yet. But at any rate, he has generations following behind him. And he wants a world that isn't permeated with this evil. For his family, especially. And it is for those very same reasons I do what I do. And I'm not even on any level even close to what he does. But I give, day in and day out, my time. A night like tonight, 72 degrees, warm, beautiful. I would have loved to have been out on my bike. But I'm not. I'm doing this because it's that important. It's that important. And I've done this now for 5 years. I'm over 5 years. Because it's that important. Because evil like this must be eradicated. And people need to know about it and learn about it. As hard as it is. And I believe it will all come out. And places like Dollywood, Disneyland, Disney World, it crushes me to know how many people still go to these places when I know what goes on underneath of them. And as painful as it is, I can't wait for the day that it is all made public and known. And they will be cleaned up. I believe that. They're being cleaned up. And when I say what goes on under them, I pray that it's not anymore. As President Trump started cleaning this up in 2017. And you may not understand this or believe this at this point, but he was still doing it in 2020 to 2024. It was still being cleaned up. This is a military operation. It's a worldwide military operation. So all of the Disney Worlds of the world, all of the tunnel systems of the world, all of the trafficking and the crime, the organized crime syndicates of the world, all of the cartels and the cabal and all of the evil satanic, reptilian, whatever you want to call them, they're being dealt with, and they've been being dealt with. And I just pray that, like, these parks are no longer that way. But I don't care if they're that, I do care if they're that way or not, but I'm just saying when people go there, they're going there because, I mean, ooh, okay, I gotta move on because I have a lot to get to. But that is the segment on Dolly. Do your own research, pray about it, and be prepared because more is coming. Just so you know, more is coming. And just by the way, I really loved Garth Brooks too. I went to see him in concert multiple times, and now that I know what I know, I just want to. Anyway, Ruth Ann said, just to inform you, Nancy, in case you don't realize, and by the way, welcome Ruth Ann from Florida. A Canadian, originally from Canada, but lives in Florida now. Just to inform you, Nancy, in case you don't realize, I've only just began watching your podcast for only 5 minutes, and there has been at least 5 to 6 commercials so far. Yeah, that's not because of me, and I have no control over that. With Facebook, you're watching it on Facebook, obviously. So what Facebook is doing is what they all do. They all do ads and they make money. Like, I don't make any money when they show ads. I'm not getting a nickel, but the platform is, and I'm sorry you have to deal with that, Ruth Ann, and I'm sorry anyone has to deal with it. I know in Rumble you can pay for a subscription. I think it's $9.95 a month and you have no ads. I think the same is true in YouTube. I mean, I know because I personally pay to not see ads. I don't want to see ads. I hate ads. I obviously don't watch myself, and I don't watch anyone else live on Facebook. So I have absolutely no idea if there's even a way in Facebook not to have ads. But I'm so sorry to, that you or anybody has to go through that. But the good news is you can watch it on Rumble if you have a subscription to Rumble. Again, I don't make any money. I don't make any money doing this unless you guys donate and help me, which I deeply, deeply appreciate those that do, for the bills that come up and the monthly subscriptions I have to have and so forth. But yeah, I don't advertise nothing. And so, really sorry you have to deal with that. All right. And Connie joined us from Kansas, sticky Kansas. It's not humid here at all right now. It is such a blessing. And Carolyn says, I don't ever see ads. So isn't that interesting? If anybody has any ideas why Ruth Ann would see ads and Carolyn wouldn't, watching it live on Facebook, put it in the comments. Brenda said too, on Facebook I never see an ad. But I'm not on YouTube right now, Brenda. She says maybe in YouTube there is. I'm live on Facebook. This is nowhere else until I get done and I upload it and put it elsewhere. And that's the video. It's not live. So there is absolutely no yeah, I don't have an answer, Ruth Ann. Thank you, Carolyn, for sharing. And by the way, welcome from South Bend. Here is where Carolyn hails from. So welcome, Carolyn. And Brenda, for sharing also about Facebook, never seeing an ad. So Pam said, and welcome Pam from Shreveport, Louisiana. She said, great reporting on Dolly. Thank you. Appreciate that, Pam. And Chris said, colloquially. I'm probably not saying it right. Colloquially. How am I doing? It's not a word I use very often. Connie said YouTube has ads all the time. Yeah, they do. I know that. But I do pay for a subscription, so I don't have to deal with that. All right. I recommend that too. I just wish they'd give me a part of it. Wouldn't that be nice? All right. I am going to go to a segment now about the 7 kingdoms of God. The 7 kingdoms of God. This is pretty fascinating. But before I do, I want to read you something. It's not long, but I do want to read it to you. I saved it to read it to you guys. Because I'm always like doing some sort of thankfulness that President Trump does what he does for us, for all of humanity. He doesn't have to be doing this. And if he weren't, we'd all probably be in camps or dead by now. Just my opinion. But anyway, I want you to see this. And I'm going to turn my phone around. And this came from a Facebook post and an account by the name of David J. Harris in Facebook. You see right there. And he posted a picture of President Trump. And I liked what he said, so I want to share it with you guys. He said, I used to believe that Donald Trump was simply an exceptional president. But then I watched in real time the mainstream media, the FBI, the intelligence agencies, the CIA, big tech, and the entire Washington establishment joined forces in an unprecedented campaign to destroy a single man. That would be him. The numerous lawsuits, the 2 impeachments, the endless hoaxes, including the Russia one, the Mar-a-Lago raid, the gag orders, the efforts to remove him from the ballot, the attempts to bankrupt him and throw him in prison. All of that was aimed at preventing him from returning to power. 2 attempts on his life followed. With 92% of media coverage being negative toward him, while 78% of that for Kamala Harris was positive, he managed to secure a convincing victory in the last election. How do you explain that? That's when it became undeniable to me, David Harris said, that no one faces this level of coordinated and hysterical opposition unless they represent a true existential threat to the system. The system we all know is corrupt and broken. Ordinary politicians don't trigger this kind of coordinated panic. At that moment, I stopped thinking of him as a great president. He is the greatest of all time. I think David Harris Jr. is spot on about that. Spot on. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And before I forget, I want to say too, sorry, something got my attention. But I'm going to keep my train of thought here. We had a huge major SCOTUS victory today for our fair elections. It's supposed to be fair. Major SCOTUS victory in ballots. The Supreme Court lifts the ban on 23 states. They just overruled a block placed by an Obama judge preventing Trump's executive order to implement safeguards for mail-in ballots. The ruling now means that states must turn over a list of every voter getting a ballot. They must put unique serialized barcodes on both the outgoing and the return envelopes. And if a state refuses, the United States Postal Service will not deliver the ballots. This is a major election integrity win. Huge. Huge, huge win. What else came up today? Something else I think I wanted to show you guys. Okay, well, it'll come back up because there's so much coming up. Never ends. Okay, so we're going to go to the seven kingdoms under God. Let me get to that. Okay. Give me a second. Just got to get back to it. And we're just about there. Okay, we're here. We're here. We're here, but it's not pulled up yet. There it is, finally. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to be showing you, and this is coming from an account. I'll show you because sometimes you guys like to follow different things I follow. So this is another account holder in Facebook, and her name is Betty Ann Camagna, maybe Camagna. And she posted this: a new day is dawning, the age of Aquarius, the last president, 7 kingdoms. Okay, that's what she wrote. But this is a series of images I'm going to show you, and I will explain them as we go when we get to certain ones. So she said a new day is dawning, so she put this pretty sunrise image in here. Let me pull this up closer for you guys. Okay. Now, she just included this meme suggesting that JFK Jr. will be king of one of these kingdoms, maybe. This is her perception, and that's okay. And I hope she's right. I really do. So anyway, the next picture she shares is this. Now, this is going to take us a little time, but we're going to go through it step by step. 7 kingdoms. Now I'm going to go close up. One of the kingdoms will be the USA, Canada, Australia, Pacific, kingdom leader, all of these countries there, and we'll go over that more. But Russia and Eastern Europe will be another kingdom, and the kingdom leader will be Russia. Asia, the kingdom leader will be China. Kingdom leader for India will be for the Middle East. South America and Caribbean, kingdom leader will be Bolsonaro in Brazil. Spain and Western Europe, the kingdom leader will be Spain. And the Middle East and Africa, the kingdom leader will be Saudi Arabia. Now, we've got individual pages on each one of these. And if not, we'll come back to this one and I'll close up on it. All right, so this is another image that she included. And to suggest that J.D. Vance is actually a mask, and the mask is over JFK. Now, I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm saying anything is possible in this crazy world we live in. But this is why she's including this. That I've already shown you guys many times how authentic and real silicone masks look, and how, you know, you like like someone like me is just talking to you right now, and I start pulling on big old, I can promise you this is my face. Lost 70 years of it. All right. Yeah. So anything's possible. Anything's possible. But this image is suggesting that he's been there all along. So, or at least one of the people playing the part of J.D. Vance. If you guys didn't know this, J.D. Vance was an evil dude. Very evil. I mean, and he hated Trump. Hated Trump. Oh, man, did he hate Trump. Now, did I know who J.D. Vance was when it was announced that J.D. Vance was going to be the running mate? No, I'd never even heard of him. But then I do my research, and I started learning about it. I'm like, oh, my gosh. So I knew he was an actor. Plus, they made it so obvious. The real J.D. Vance was like 5'8" or something like that. 5'7" or 5'8" or 5'9". I don't remember which, but at any rate, you could look up the stats of him. I've got him in my files. Like at that time when you did a Google search for him, the true stats came up. Now they've all been doctored, and they say, he's 6'2" or whatever he is. But at any rate, I knew it from the get-go that, okay, this isn't the real guy, and so forth. So, yeah, someone's playing the part, and maybe multiples, but this is not the original J.D. Vance. If J.D. Vance did not grow like 4 or 5 inches, that did not happen. Yet, it did. So, you do the math on that and connect those dots. Okay, so the next picture in this collage of images is President Trump holding a dove. Now, there is a story behind this, and I've actually shared the story on the podcast. It's been a long time since I shared it. But it has to do with him and JFK Jr. And I don't remember the exact specifics about it. But the reason for holding this dove was a calm way back. I mean, whatever year this was. And I don't think we can see the date on this. But, I mean, you can see how young he is there. And it was when JFK Jr. was still alive. It was during that period of time. And so this was actually a calm way back then. And there's JFK Sr. with a dove. The Return of the Dove 1546. Executive Order. The Creator has a message for you. A storm is upon us. Hidden message. Click, I have no mercy for a cabal return of Jesus. I don't know who wrote all that, but this is a picture with President Kennedy also having a white dove. This is just an image of a white dove. And doves represent peace. That's one thing, doves represent peace. All right, so here is a world map. A world map. We're talking about 7 kingdoms. 7 kingdoms. The world under 100% peace. No wars. Everybody gets along. And so if we close up on this, I'll start where the United States is. Okay, so there's North America, South America. Okay, and you can see North America, where the U.S. is, has all of that up there, but it also has all of that down there. And then you can see, like, there's a little crossover maybe in that area. We're gonna go to the exact countries in just a minute, but that's South America. That's one of them. North America is another one. Asia, Middle East, all of the different areas in the world, Kingdom of the East. They're saying in this visual, King Trump. Oh, how much the left would hate hearing that. King Trump. King Trump to be replaced by King John F. Kennedy Jr. Kingdom of the West. Kingdom of the West. Brazilian king. The Kingdom of the Southern Seas. Tsar of the North. Putin. Kingdom of the Steppes and the Bear. Steppes and the Bear. I don't know. King Chi. Kingdom of the East. Mohammed bin Salman, King MBS. MBS is bin Salman from Saudi Arabia. Kingdom of the Sun and Crescent, Middle East and Africa. And then Spanish Kingdom of Europa. Okay, so there's all of these broken down. And let's go to the next one. Okay, so kingdom number 1. And it says Trump to be replaced by John F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know that to be absolute. It's okay with me if it is. I'd be real happy. One way or the other, I'm happy. Kingdom number 1. Kingdom of the West. North America, Australia, Pacific Islands, Greenland, and Iceland. Countries. North America, USA, Canada, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, the Solomon Islands, Samoa, the Tonga, Vanuatu, Micronesia, Kiribati, Palau, Nauru, Tuvalu. I don't even know these places. Southeast Asia and the Philippines, Brunei, East Timor, the Arctic and the Atlantic, Greenland and Iceland, and the king of this area, this one, would be the emperor of the New World. And the New World would be that. That will be, if this person is correct, or these theories of thought is correct, the New World will be this, all peace, everybody gets along, and Trump will be replaced by John F. Kennedy Jr. and the king of this kingdom number 1 will be over the entire world. Okay, next one. Spanish king. Kingdom of Europa, that's Western and Northern Europe. Countries, British Isles, the Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Western Europe, and France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, Portugal, and Scandinavia, Sweden, and Denmark. And the king there will be called the High King of Europa, and that is to be determined. Now, there's going to be an image you're going to see where somebody is suggesting it might be the Korean, trying to remember his name, Sung Won-ju, whatever. I can't remember his name. But anyway, maybe the leader over there in North Korea, because again, he wants peace. They all want peace. Everybody wants peace. It's a cabal, the deep state that wants war. Okay, so King Qi from China, he would be the king or the emperor of the East, and that would be China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, and then East Asia, China, Mongolia, Taiwan, South Korea, North Korea, Japan, and Asia, Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. And the next one would be King Putin, the Tsar of the North. The kingdom of the, I've never even heard of that, steppes, and the bear, Russia, Northern Eurasia, and Central Europe. It'd be Russia and the former USSR, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all these names are going to kill me, Turkmenistan, I love words though, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Nordic expansion, Finland, Norway, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, and Austria, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, and Croatia. And so Putin would be the Tsar, the king of the North. This would be bin Salman, then Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and this would be the Middle East and Africa, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Egypt, United American Emirates, or whatever that is, Qatar, Yemen, Oman, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, Bahrain, Kuwait, North Africa would be Algeria, Morocco, Libya, Tunisia, Mauritania, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Ghana, the Congo, DR Congo, Tanzania, Sudan, Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Chad, Central African Republic, Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Niger, Togo, Benin, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Eritrea, Djibouti, Eswatini, Lesotho, I don't know these, Madagascar, Mozambique, Seychelles, Comoros, Mauritius, Sao Tome and Principe, Cape Verde, and King Caliph of the Sun and Crescent. He would be the ruler, MBS, or Bin Salman. King Modi, that's India. That would be South and mainland Southeast Asia and India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar. And it would be, the king would be the Maharaja of the Sun, King Modi. The Brazilian king would be King Bolsonaro, and it would be Mexico, South America, and the Caribbean. And Latin America would be Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, Bolivia, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Also Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and Belize. And Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and Jamaica, and Trinidad, and Tobago, and Barbados, and St. Lucia, and St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, and Antigua, and Barbuda, and Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Bahamas. And that would be the king of the Emperor of the Southern Seas, would be the Brazilian king, and that at this time would be King Bolsonaro. Okay, so this picture shows, this is who I was thinking of, like the Korean guy, Kim. This one is showing these as the leaders. It would be Trump over, or maybe Kennedy later, over the entire world. That's why he is like seen in all of these countries when he goes to visit. It's like they are greeting royalty. And I've showed that over and over again when he takes these trips overseas, and whether he's in Great Britain, or he's in Saudi Arabia, or he's in Japan, he is greeted as royalty. So we got Putin and Xi and Kim and Modi and Bolsonaro and Bin Salman, and so they're suggesting maybe Kim would be the one that would be over that one area. But again, that's someone else's opinion. And then it says, think continuity, think optics, think global coordination. Every move since 2016 has unfolded under a legal and military framework far beyond partisan politics. They've been fighting a war without firing a shot, and that's why the world is still standing. This was the art of silent warfare, winning without destruction, reclaiming the world through precision and not chaos. The military is in control. This is a post coming out of a page that goes by John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. Whether or not it's him or not, who knows? I don't. We have the finest military in the world, and it is in control. Remember, we are watching a movie. God bless, much love. I'd like to think it's really him, and maybe we'll find out it is. You will naturally separate from the people who are not real enough within themselves to stand with you. It's not personal, it's spiritual. In other words, some people will never come to a podcast like this that or I know. Hopefully someday they'll come around. But it says you will naturally separate from the people who are not real enough within themselves. I just think some people, well, whatever. It's a spiritual journey. It's not personal. A person who doesn't want to hear the truth more than likely won't tell the truth either. That's an interesting little meme that they included. And this is a funny one they wanted to put in. Folks with calcified pineal glands checking out my page. I get it. I hope you guys get it too. Okay. Now this one's interesting. Soul family. Your soul family is not something you need to chase. You will find each other. So a lot of times when I come on this podcast and I'm speaking in the beginning or even at the end, I will say, like, the Lord brought us together. The Lord, like, somehow you found me. God put me out here. You didn't know me. I didn't know you. But that now we know each other, and we were brought together for such a time as this. And that's what this picture reminds me of, is what this person is calling a soul family. But God is uniting people worldwide in ways that, well, only He can do, and who'd have thought that we would be joined together, you in my life, me in your life. And so it's just a pretty cool image that someone came up with this, and I do believe that this is all God's plan and has brought us together for such a time as this. And this about the beehive, now you're going to see the Freemasons here, and there's absolutely, they are not good and nothing is good about it. But what it represents, and what the enemy means for evil, God will use for good. So what the Masonic beehive was all about was controlling humanity, and they were not for good. However, the beehive is symbolic of a lot of good things that bees are, and that the beehive is. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we just don't have the time, because a couple of things I'm going to get to. But the beehive was brought front and center when Camille and when they came, the king and queen came to visit Washington, and then President Trump, with all the media, recording the whole darn thing, they go out to a beehive on the White House lawn. I mean, we didn't even know there was a beehive back there. But it was put out there because of the symbolic meaning of it. And I went over that in detail when this happened, and I won't do that now. But it was symbolic of them relinquishing authority to the new world leader, if you want to call it that. This was symbolic of that. And that's what, this whole thing explains. But in this case, like, the global elites want to be the ones in control. But at any rate, they are relinquishing power. And The Beekeeper is a movie that is recommended everybody watch, because it will explain this whole thing in this movie called The Beekeeper. So if you want to check that out, you can see a movie where, they show us everything. And this here is a Q post 749. And it was dated February 12th of 2018. And it says, what is highlighted is the end won't be for everyone. But what the whole thing says is coincidence, The Matrix, the movie, we're watching a movie. Coincidence, The Matrix grew people as a crop, used for energy and controlled their minds. Sound familiar? Wonder where they derived that idea from. Now comes a conspiracy label. Deeper we go, the more unrealistic, and it all becomes. The end won't be for everyone. That choice to know will be yours. And that was kind of, that choice to know will be yours. That's what this one was referring to. A person who doesn't want to hear the truth, that one, as well as this one. You will naturally separate from the people who are not, real enough within themselves to stand with you. It's not personal, it's spiritual. And so that's kind of what this is saying. The choice to know will be yours, but the ending won't be for everyone. And what that, I believe, means is, there's good and evil here, and the evil will be eradicated, and they're not going to be happy about it. The people, obviously, because they're done. The people that we know that aren't willing to open their minds, they're going to be confused, and it's going to be like they're going to not know what's going on, so to speak, and we do. The ending won't be for everyone, but the ending will be for those of us that know what know what we know. And then they put in a meme again of a heart and JFK Jr. supposedly, you know, a meme of him just sending a heart our way. And then it also included The Last President by Ingersoll Lockwood, a image of that book that was written in the late 1800s, where the guy that became president, you know, was the last president of the United States and was a very wealthy billionaire that lived on, you know, Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. And yeah, so they included that as well. And remember, we have no control over the timing. Just realize the complexity of everything and then add the unknowns. We don't get a dress rehearsal. This is a one-shot deal to get it right. It's a military operation. We are blessed that this will happen in our lifetime. And it's interesting that this statement here, this is a one-shot deal. The Lord really, you know, put in my spirit that pretty strongly over the last 24 hours. Again, it's not the first time. But, you know, why this is taking like as long as it's taking, and we all want it over yesterday, and we just want to move on, and we want to get on with the good things in life and get past all of this. But it has to be this way. It had to be this way. And Q always said that it had to be this way. And we never really knew exactly what that means, but we can, in hindsight, put that together. It had to be this way. Many of the things, it had to take this long. Why? Because, you know, this is very complex and there's so much to it. So just saying that it is a one-shot deal, and there is one shot to get this right. If they don't eradicate all of this evil and bring peace and unity, I mean, it's going to work because God is in control, and however he's doing it and why he's doing it, it's because of his grace and his mercy and his love for humanity and all of us. Because all of us probably would have given up on all of us, but God didn't, you know. And the ending won't be for everyone. The evil, you know, they're not. You can't have a unified world and a worldwide peace unless you've got everybody that wants the same thing, and evil does not want that. So obviously the evil has to be eliminated. And so yeah, that's how this that was put together. There was one more slide. That was a quote. Let me show this to you. This is the final slide. Q is a movement whose core values are anti-treason, anti-sedition, and anti-pedophilia. Maybe those attacking Q narratives and evidence are pro-treason, pro-sedition, and pro-pedophilia. There is a reckoning coming. Making sure you are on the right side. Make sure you are on the right side of history, written by someone by the name of Martin Geddes. So, is there going to be 7 kingdoms of the world? I've heard that for a long time. I heard it, and I have come to trust that Bear with News 17 channel has, for whatever reason, God has provided him with some very profound information over the years, and he talked about this years ago, that before I knew even who he was. But I was reading about this like so many years ago, like before I was even doing podcasts, and he was saying about how the world would be coming together, and there would be different areas in the world, and there would be people, like he said way back then, Putin and Xi as examples, you know, would be, you know, the leaders in those areas. And I don't know if that's what's coming, but it's a pretty interesting, it's pretty interesting to take a look at it like we did tonight, and just kind of open our minds to the fact of this could be how it's all coming around, because it's not just me saying that or this person with this post. We're seeing things we've never seen before, like President Trump going to all these different nations and being honored as a person not just honored like any president that's ever always gone, or the prime minister of a country coming here or whatever. They're given a nice welcome, and they're given, you know, there might be events done in their honor. But I mean, President Trump is way beyond that. I mean, they're giving him, like in Saudi Arabia, you know, like the sword that no one but the king of Saudi Arabia has ever held, but they give it to President Trump to hold. Going to the Forbidden City in China. No president has ever been taken to the Forbidden City in China, yet President Trump and Melania were. And it's like that over and over again. In Japan, it had something to do with the Suma, the big fat guys that they got these big awards, and only the president, the head person of Japan, you know, can award it or something like that. And President Trump was given that honor. Him being told to walk in front of the Queen of England, being told to walk in front of the King of England, like you go, like by the King saying, no, you go first, by the Queen going, no, you go. You know, no one walks in front of the Queen. No one walks in front of the King. But yet, they ushered him to walk in front of them. He was welcomed at, I get the different palaces mixed up, but the one that is for every president, he went to the private palace when he went last time, and what was in the carriage that only the kings ride in. That there's never been anyone but a king riding in this royal carriage at I think it's Balmoral, but I could be wrong about that. But at any rate, this is like over and over and over again. We're seeing this from a worldwide 40,000 foot view of honor and home. I think the word is homage. It's just in my head. But I mean, just like treating him like royalty. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And when you see what you saw tonight and what I showed you about the world, now those dots start to connect. Like, okay, maybe there is something to this. Because why in the world would he be honored as high as or higher than the kings of these nations or the leaders of these nations or whatever? So there's something going on, guys. That's what I'm saying. There's something going on. And it's bigger than we can even imagine, because it's never happened before. But it is happening, and we're witnessing it. And so, all right. I thought it was pretty fascinating, very fascinating, to take you guys a little bit further on that journey. I've been on the journey for a while, but we haven't talked in depth about it. So I wanted to share that with you guys. So now I'm going to, take just a few minutes to share with you what David Sorensen had to say about this severe storm coming, as well as what comes after the severe storm, and that is the beautiful world that awaits us. And then we will close with the part 14 of the sequel to the Fall of the Cabal. We'll close with that. We'll show that video. It's about a half hour, and then we'll close with prayer after that. So let me share with you what David Sorensen had to say, and I think it's important to hear what he has to say, because we need to be prepared for anything. And like I said, I do trust him. He and Bear are two people that I've just come to really trust. Their insight, their discernment, the leading of the Holy Spirit in their lives. And so when David wrote this, I thought it was important to share. And so he said, "Dear friends worldwide, I don't like to issue these kind of warnings, but I believe something is on the horizon that could be dangerous for many people in America. I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to speculate, but multiple experts have expressed concern that something severe could erupt in America before the midterms, especially because the first arrests of deep state agents may happen soon, which would infuriate the demonized left. What if their heroine, Hillary Clinton, is arrested? Or their supreme master of science, Anthony Fauci? Or their eternal God, Barack Obama? Evidence concerning their crimes against humanity has been gathered over the past few years, and the time is approaching when arrests will happen. Multiple experts I have listened to warn that this could cause a major civil storm in America. The deep state has been arming thousands of illegal immigrants who are waiting for their marching orders. For this reason, myself and my family are moving temporarily away from Southern California to spend the fall and perhaps the winter in the high mountains of Colorado. Once the storm is over, we will return. However, I want to encourage you that everything the forces of evil may throw at us will fail. The new day is emerging, and nothing can stop it. Following is a message of hope and restoration I want to share with you. It will deeply strengthen you. And that message is this: the world is going to change. Nothing you see now will remain the same forever. We are living in a time of change, an era of transition. The darkness will fade, and a new day of hope will increasingly emerge. Tune your heart and mind to this new day. Do not remain focused on the darkness of the old. If you become trapped there, you will struggle to recognize and enjoy what is coming. Change the way you think. Look for the good that is already beginning to appear. The realm of evil is going down forever, never to return. This dawn is not temporary. It marks the beginning of a permanent new day. The world was never created to remain a perpetual habitation of evil. It was made to be a temporary testing ground for humanity, and now that test is coming to an end, and a new world is emerging, a world in which blessings will flow. It will require faith and courage to step out of the old and enter the new. The demonic forces of the old world must be driven away from every sphere of influence in creation. This is part of our calling. We are not called to sit around and wait. We are not meant to stand at a distance and merely observe or comment or just voice an opinion. We were born to help usher in this new world, a world in which light increases, a world in which goodness flows, a world in which hope arises, a world in which children are free once again. It will not be a world in which everyone continues to suffer because evil holds all the power. It will not be a world in which good people remain enslaved by the wicked. It will not be a world in which God is pushed to the outskirts while Satanism occupies the heart of society. The new day will bring a great reversal. It will be a new era in which the living reality of Christ walking among his people becomes so undeniable that his presence and kingship on earth can no longer be ignored. Hear the invitation of Christ. Do you not know that you are my temple? Do you not understand that you are my dwelling place? Have you not heard that I am building my habitation among you wherever you are? You are my chosen possession. You are my beloved. You are the one in whom I abide every day of your life. Do not postpone my presence to an unknown future. That is a lie of darkness that has cast a blindfold over souls, preventing them from walking with me in my fullness. You were called to recognize me with you every day of your life, wherever you go and in every circumstance. Do not delay walking with me. Embrace me now. David goes on to say, this is our day of transition, our day of transformation, of stepping out of the old and into the new. With you and with millions of others who are God's true children, Christ will build a new world so different from the old that our grandchildren will barely comprehend the stories of the past. Those stories will sound strange and almost unimaginable to them. A child born into new dimensions of hope and freedom and healing will find it difficult to imagine what life was like for those that were born into deep darkness and corruption. But you are standing at the crossroads of the ages. You are witnessing the turning of an era. Step out of the old now and lift your eyes, renew your mind, and focus on the new. And that message from David, I am so uplifted and encouraged by it. And the first part of it, with just the awareness, I've said it to you myself, I think something's coming. And I think it'll be some sort of civil unrest, and I think it will involve the military stepping in, and I think it will involve, as I said earlier in this podcast, that these midterms may be delayed or postponed or whatever. But none of that's a given. It's just opinions of mine as I'm seeking truth always. So with that, we are going to transition over to part 14 of the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal. Again, it's going to be talking about the global elite's ultimate plan to reduce the population of the world and the history behind that. And nobody researches better and writes better dialogue and produces a video as well as Janet Ossebaard. And all credit goes to her and her partner Cyntha Koeter for all the work that they've done. We've lost Janet. For those that don't know, she, a couple of weeks prior to her being found first missing and then found dead, a couple of weeks before that, she had wrote a public social media message that she is not someone who would unalive herself, and she would never do that, and she's healthy and she's happy, and so forth and so on. And then she disappeared, and then they found her, and it was officially a suicide. This woman had, I wasn't going to say that word. Anyway, this woman had a huge target on her back, and I hope and I believe, I don't know for sure, but I pray that she's in witness protection and we'll see her again. But all credit goes to her for putting so much of her life into all of this so we could learn and know the truth. So with that being said, we're going to go to part 14 of 28 of the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal. I'll turn the camera around and get this into our viewfinder here. And I think that's about right for you guys. Okay, and this is about a half hour, and when it's over, we will close with prayer and Chris had said Kim Jong-un. Thank you, Chris, for that. And Daniel has said he believes it was Windsor Castle. Thank you, Daniel, for that. Okay, so here we go, part 14 of Fall of the Cabal. The depopulation agenda in our daily lives, what does that look like? Is it just a conspiracy theory? Is there hard evidence for such an insanely cruel agenda? Are people really capable of wiping out billions of, quote, useless eaters, as we are referred to in the protocols of Zion? Let's find out.
Depopulation, Agenda 21 and 2030, Georgia Guidestones, a new world order. Is it really this bad? Can people be so evil as to wipe us out as soon as they get a chance? Well, yes. We've already seen the position of the UN towards a new world order. Let's listen to some of our world leaders and see if they believe in this new world order, shall we?
They all make the cabal sign of the pyramid. Did you see that?
Less than a new world order. This is the pledge of the world's most powerful leaders, representing 90% of the global economy.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea. A new world order.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
We're seeing a new world order now being built. And I don't think America can retreat from that. The integration of national economies into a global economy. So we're going to keep on pushing hard to shape an international order.
Sometimes I'm criticized in my own country for professing a belief in international norms and multilateral institutions, but I am convinced that in the long run, giving up some freedom of action, binding ourselves to international rules, over the long term enhances our security.
Dat we ons samen sterk maken voor een wereldorde die weer een tijd mee kan. Voor onszelf en voor het collectief.
Today is the beginning of a global mobilization effort to rally our forces behind this Great Reset initiative. We need a Great Reset.
We can actively contribute together to building the 21st century world order.
Wenn man eine wirkliche Weltordnung haben will, eine globale politische Ordnung, dann wird man nicht umhin kommen, an einigen Stellen auch Souveränität, Rechte an andere abzugeben.
De internationale inbedding heeft ons land veel gebracht. Het goed functioneren van de naoorlogse multilaterale wereldorde en de internationale stabiliteit zijn cruciaal voor onze rechtsstaat en voor de kracht van onze economie.
Pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
In this period, when really a new world order can be created, it's a great opportunity. There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world. And the challenge is how to build a world order for the first time in history on a global basis.
Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the US would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions, or on so global a scale.
A new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges.
And I strongly believe India will be a central actor in the new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that is the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. The New World Order is what they all want. The New World Order, as described in the Protocols of Zion. Remember? We shall so wear down the Goyim that they will offer us international power that will enable us to form a super government. In place of the rulers of today, we shall set up a super government administration. Its hands will reach out in all directions, and its organization will be of such colossal dimensions that it cannot fail to subdue all the nations of the world. One authority will be glorious because it will be all-powerful. Our authority will be the crown of order, and in that is included the whole happiness of man. We have seen in Part 4 that the New World Order's main focus is complete world dominance. Population control, better known as depopulation, is the UN's tool to annihilate the majority of the masses so that no more than 500 million people are left on the face of the earth. A neat number, easy to control, dominate, and subjugate. What we have shown you so far when it comes to depopulation is not all. Believe it or not, there are more ways to depopulate the planet. The Cabal has given this topic a lot of careful consideration and planning. Now, before we talk you into a depression, please do realize the following. First of all, this evil is nothing new. It has been here for many, many centuries. All we do is expose it so we can deal with it and get rid of it, okay? Exposure is vital. It is their worst nightmare. Once you know what you're dealing with, you can act and take back your own sovereignty. Secondly, those who know us and our work know that we never end on a negative note. The scripts we write, the presentations we give, always end on a positive note. There is always an unexpected twist at the end. So please bear with us. We promise you, you will love what's coming. So, let's expose the maggots once and for all, shall we? How are we, the people, being attacked in the name of population control? Wars, natural disasters, famine and drought, plagues and diseases, vaccinations, family planning, chemtrails, GMOs, and additives in food, water, beauty care and cleaning products. Wars speak for themselves. As we've seen, they have always been caused by the Cabal as a divide and conquer strategy and as a way to make massive amounts of money. Wars don't just start. They are instigated by design. Always. Who makes the money? The Cabal. Who does the suffering? We, the people. Next, natural disasters. Think earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions and tsunamis. They don't need much explanation. The earth shakes, people die. But did you know that many of these natural disasters nowadays are actually caused by man? Ever heard of HAARP? High Frequency Active Aurora Research Program? An American military research program used to excite the ionosphere via high-frequency signals. Using it influences the weather in a profound way.
Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. In the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. For decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics, rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes. All of them could be subject to weather modification.
Natural disasters can be and are triggered by the cabal to get rid of people. How convenient. Others are engaging even in an eco-type of terrorism, whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes and volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. So there are plenty of ingenious minds out there that are at work finding ways in which they can wreak terror upon other nations. It's real. Next, depopulation through famine and drought. This too can be triggered by HAARP. Control the weather, and you control the yield of crop and the water supply. Create hunger and thirst, and you have the people right where you want them. Needy, vulnerable, and scared. Then, fast depopulation through plagues and diseases. Take, for instance, the bubonic plague, the Black Death, that killed God knows how many millions of people across the world in the Middle Ages. What a delightful way to lose millions of people in one go. No bullets needed, no bombs, just plagues. Another plague that turned out to be highly convenient was the Spanish flu. More people died of the Spanish flu than of bullets during the First World War. Between 1918 and 20, an estimate of 50 million people died. 1/3 of the entire world population was infected. It is believed to be the greatest pandemic the world has ever experienced. Worse even than the medieval Black Death. There are several very interesting things about the Spanish flu. First of all, it didn't start in Spain. Secondly, it wasn't a flu. There's more, but let's start with these two, shall we? If it didn't start in Spain, then where did it? In the US. If it wasn't a flu virus, what was it? It was a bacteria that caused severe and in most cases lethal pneumonia. According to a 2008 National Institute of Health paper, bacterial pneumonia was the killer in a minimum of 92.7% of the autopsies reviewed. So why do we call it the Spanish flu? As a decoy, a smokescreen to hide the truth. Why? Because the truth is so hideous. Most people prefer to hear a convenient lie. The first cases of bacterial pneumonia in 1918 traced back to a military base in Fort Riley, Kansas. Long story short, during the first half of 1918, an experimental bacterial meningitis vaccine cultured in horses by the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research in New York, now the Rockefeller University, was injected into soldiers at Fort Riley. The so-called Spanish flu was a vaccine experiment gone horribly wrong. Well, that's what we, the people, would say. The cabal would refer to it differently. They would call it an experiment with the best outcome ever. Millions of American soldiers were vaccinated with this experimental serum. 2 million of them went overseas. They fought under poor sanitary conditions, so the bacteria spread like wildfire wherever they went. The story was then spread that these soldiers would come home with all sorts of European diseases, so the American population was vaccinated as well. On top of everything else, the vaccines were distributed all over Europe. Only the vaccinated died. Healthy men and women in the prime of their lives died, not the elderly, as would have been the case if it were a flu virus. Who was in charge of that distribution and mass vaccination program? The Rockefeller Institute. Who was the main scientist in charge? Dr. Frederick Gates. According to Gates, they injected random dosages of an experimental bacterial meningitis vaccine into soldiers. Those who survived became cloud adults, meaning they spread the bacteria to others, even the non-vaccinated. In modern COVID days, we would call it shedding. The vaccinated infecting the non-vaccinated. What an amazing coincidence, right? Frederick Gates then, Bill Gates now. Rockefeller Initiative then, Rockefeller Initiative now. Disease developed in Fort Riley, US then. Disease developed in Wuhan, China now. Closed down societies then. Closed down societies now. Cloud adults then. Shedding now. All for our own good, our own safety. Back then. And now. And just about a century in between. So, back to depopulation through plagues and diseases. The problem with plagues is that they don't occur much, certainly not in these modern times of hygiene. But not to worry, the cabal is quite creative and always comes up with a solution to every problem. If there is no plague available, you create one.
An epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths, either naturally caused or intentionally caused.
Back in 1943, Fort Detrick in Maryland, US, was set up as a center of the US biological weapons program. Everything that happened there was top secret. Fort Detrick was a tool of the CIA. It was a dark pit of the most inhumane experiments in the area of mind control and killer viruses. If you truly want to know how evil it really was, we urge you to look into Michael Aquino, the head of MKUltra at Fort Detrick, who later founded the satanic cult of the Temple of Set. In 1968, Fort Detrick hosted yet another secret project, the Special Virus Cancer Program. It was part of the National Cancer Institute. The scientists wanted to learn how to use viruses to make cancer and to force normal cells to become cancerous by subjecting them to viruses. Why? Because cancer is an excellent weapon when it comes to biological warfare. It can be used to take down political leaders without any suspicion of a crime committed. And it can be used to wipe out large numbers of the population, as most forms of cancer are deadly. Approximately 10 million people die of cancer worldwide each year. That's about 26,000 people each day. Two classes of cancer-causing viruses were studied extensively at Fort Detrick's Special Virus Cancer Program. The RNA-type tumor retroviruses and the DNA herpes-type viruses. In the process, two discoveries were made: HIV and KS, Kaposi sarcoma. Kaposi sarcoma is widely known as the gay cancer that often accompanied AIDS when the first cases broke out in gay men in Manhattan, New York City in 1979. As a matter of fact, Manhattan was the center of the first AIDS outbreak, not Africa. It wasn't until 1982 that AIDS broke out in Africa. Still, we are supposed to believe that AIDS originated in Africa and that it jumped from apes, primates, to humans. Not only that, we are supposed to believe that back in 1979, it jumped from African apes to only white gay men in Manhattan, as did the human herpes 8 virus that causes all forms of Kaposi sarcoma, the gay cancer. We are expected to believe that two primate viruses, a retrovirus and a herpes virus, jumped species in Africa at the same time and ended up exclusively in the blood of white gay American men to produce a new immunodeficiency disease in 1979, now called AIDS. This proposed scenario suggests to me that such an unlikely African event has the markings of a scientific fairy tale, and I remain stupefied that such nonsense can pass for science in the 21st century. So, what else happened in Manhattan in 1979? The experimental hepatitis B vaccination program. For 2 years until 1981, the year the AIDS epidemic became official, gay men were vaccinated with this experimental vaccine, not only in Manhattan, but also in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. What a coincidence that these three cities became the three big epicenters of the AIDS epidemic. Now, we realize that there will be a lot of opposition and denial when it comes to the man-made origin of HIV and AIDS. We suggest you study the work of professionals such as Dr. Leonard Horowitz, Dr. Robert Strecker, Professor Robert Lee, and the above-mentioned Dr. Alan Cantwell. Back to Fort Detrick and its horrid experiments. Meet Robert Charles Gallo, a biomedical researcher best known for his role in the discovery of HIV and subsequently the invention of the HIV test kit. He was head of the Laboratory of Tumor Cell Biology at the National Cancer Institute. Gallo didn't actually discover HIV, he stole the discovery, held by his partner in crime, Dr. Fauci. Whom did they steal it from? Dr. Frank Ruscetti. And Dr. Judy Mikovits. Mikovits worked under the direction of Ruscetti. She was the one who isolated HIV from blood and saliva, and by doing so, she confirmed the earlier discovery by the French doctor Luc Montagnier, who had isolated and described HIV as a possible cause of AIDS. When Ruscetti was out of town, Mikovits got a phone call from Fauci, who ordered her to give him the manuscript about the isolation and confirmation of HIV while it was still in press. Mikovits refused, as it was unethical to do so. The paper was still confidential. Fauci then threatened to fire her for insubordination. Mikovits still refused. When Ruscetti returned a few weeks later, he gave Fauci the manuscript. Fauci then deliberately delayed the publication of the manuscript so that his partner in crime, Dr. Frank Gallo, could steal the content and write a competing paper, submit it, and get it into press before Ruscetti and Mikovits could do so. On May 4, 1984, Dr. Gallo published his now famous papers containing the findings of Ruscetti and Mikovits, but under his name.
This delayed the development of testing and spread the HIV epidemic through the world, killing millions.
Was Fauci held accountable for his responsibility for the millions of lives his greed had cost? On the contrary. 6 months later, he was appointed director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, a position he still holds today. Well, not much longer, we suspect, as Dr. Fauci is now heavily under fire for his involvement in the Wuhan outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. With all the evidence now on the table, we find it hard to believe that Fauci will be on the right side of the prison bars for much longer. Back to Dr. Gallo. Gallo worked with Litton Industry and its subsidiary, Bionetics. Litton Industry is a defense contractor and supplier of biological weapons. Bionetics managed America's Biological Weapons Testing Center at Fort Detrick and ran the entire National Cancer Institute with its special virus cancer program. Bionetics supplied the lab animals, including monkeys and chimpanzees, cancer viruses and vaccine culture media for cancer investigators and pharmaceutical manufacturers throughout the 1960s and 70s. Lytton and Bionetics created and spread AIDS and many other deadly viruses. Subsequently, Bionetics supplied Merck with experimental viruses for vaccine studies. Now, that sounds rather clinical, doesn't it? But here's what really happened. They used children as guinea pigs in Africa and at the Willowbrook State School on Staten Island in New York. Children!
Have you ever used orphans to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used babies of mothers in prison to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used individuals under colonial rule to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Did you do so in the Belgian Congo?
Yes.
These were experiments conducted by the evil trinity of Lytton, Bionetics, and Merck, assigned by Kissinger and the CIA. Mind you, these experiments were in no way less evil than those of the Nazi doctors in the death camps of World War II. In this school from hell, mentally retarded children were injected with vaccines containing all kinds of killer viruses, including cancer viruses. Virus research experiments at Bionetics caused new types of cancer, such as leukemia, lymphoma, and sarcoma, diseases they had never seen before. In 1970, the Defense Department ordered these viruses, including other immune-suppressing viruses. That's right, the Defense Department bought cancer-inducing viruses that had been invented, created by Bionetics, and tested on children. So, in case you ever wondered why we never heard about people dying from cancer in the old days, it's because all of these kinds of cancer had not been invented yet. Merck is one of the big pharma giants that Bill Gates is heavily involved in. According to researcher Dr. Leonard Horowitz, it was Kissinger who gave the order to fabricate the killer viruses. Merck's vaccines triggered AIDS. At the same time, Kissinger prepared his infamous National Security Memorandum 200. That's right, the Kissinger Report, calling for a massive third world depopulation. Remember from part 6? The devastating side effects of the hepatitis B vaccine, like HIV, AIDS and cancer, must have been an absolute triumph in the eyes of the cabal, wanting to depopulate the planet. It didn't take long before the next target of their annihilation program was massively vaccinated: the black people of the African continent. We all know how that ended. Over 32 million people died a slow and horrible death by this brand new disease called AIDS. We promised to tell you more about the other depopulation tools: vaccinations, family planning, chemtrails, GMOs, and additives in food, water, beauty care and cleaning products. But as we've gone beyond the time limit of our episodes, we invite you to join us to Part 15.
Well, that's a lot, isn't it? It's always a lot. It doesn't matter how many times I know this, I've seen it, I've heard it, I've watched it. The enormity of the evil in this world and what evil man has done to others is beyond comprehension. It doesn't make it any less important that we know about it. We need to know about it. That's why I do this. There are no words sometimes, and this is one of those times. We know so much that we didn't know before because we've lived it. We lived 2020. We know what's going on with Fauci and the things that are now being disclosed and exposed. Absolute proof. But no matter how much we know, a video like this and the research that Janet Ossebaard has done to bring an awareness to all of us of these diabolical plans. Again, the good news is there is good news. God is eradicating the evil for such a time as this. I believe that. You know why I believe that? Not only because I trust God, but without hope, we have nothing. And with God, we know we have hope. We know that He has plans for us, for all of humanity. And it does not include this evil. And we're going there, and we're getting there. And that's the good news. And the things that we're seeing in this video that were released and published in 2022, we have gone to a point where much of this has been eradicated and ended, and people like Fauci isn't doing what he was doing, and it's been exposed, and people like Janet Ossebaard exposed it, among others. And then we continue to expose it. And that's why I put us through this. Put me through it. And put all of you through it. Because all the people that gave their lives, that lost their lives, we owe it to them. We owe it to them. We're still here. And we got to keep shouting the truth. We need to keep opening people's eyes. And justice is coming for these evil people, these evil doers like Fauci. Justice is coming. All right, we're going to end this podcast. We're going to pray. You know, this prayer that we pray from September of 2020. A podcast like this with this content that was in part 13, that's what this prayer was written for. This is what the leaders, the people who, the military, the group of people who founded and the military that are leading the charge on this war of good versus evil. This is what this prayer was written for. Please pray in agreement with me. Strengthen our faith, Lord. Forgive us our sins so that we may be clean in your righteousness, and help us to be brave so we can stand and fight the spiritual battles that are in our lives and in this world. Give us your wisdom and discernment, Lord, so we will not be caught off guard. Together, Lord, we win, because in truth you already have. While evil still roams, the power of your name and your blood rises up in victory against every evil planned against us. While malicious actions disturb us, like what we viewed tonight and what we learned maybe for the first time, some of you, while malicious actions disturb us, we use the armor of God that you have equipped us with and given us to stand firm against this evil. You will bring justice in due time for all of the harm and needless violence aimed at your children. Until then, though, we remain in your presence, aligned with your purposes, Lord, and we look to you as our supreme commander and protector. Help us to avoid temptation and deliver us from evil, Lord. You are the mighty one. You are the one who will ultimately bring all evil to light. With you, Jesus, we are safe. Our Father who art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, right here on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And thank you for delivering this world from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. And all the people said, amen. So that will do it for tonight. Another Seeking Truth Always in the books, so to speak. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being live with me tonight. I see Kathy came here, coming from Dayton, Ohio. Thanks for joining us tonight, Kathy. And yes, it is pure evil and heartbreaking. Thank you, each and every one of you, for your comments. Thank you for being here live. For those watching in Rumble or YouTube or any other platform where this video is posted, thank you for your likes, your comments. It all helps in getting this video, that it is automatically pushed out further when you guys like, when you guys comment, when you guys follow, when you guys subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, but it sure helps a lot to get this truth out to others. So with that, I will say I look forward to being with you next time. It should be Thursday of this week. This is Nancy with Seeking Truth Always. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless each and every one of you, and bye for now.